Is it all right? Is it all right that we're running a little bit late? I feel like it's not all right. But you think it's all right?
Yes. I think it's
Well,
fine. Well,
Raylene says it's okay that we're a few minutes late.
well,
But thank you for watching the Barry Beat podcast live from Raylene's basement. Of course, with me, we have Miss Raylene, who thinks it's okay to be late by 1 minute.
It is okay to be late by 1 minute because you're streaming from Aired Out, and people just think you're taking lessons from JD Green.
I don't like getting to the. I don't like doing the podcast late. 1 minute late is too late.
I know.
I feel like I've heard it before. Like if somebody, I don't know who told me this. I don't know where I heard it, but they said that if I'll wait for anyone, it was probably Dr. Joy Brown, which maybe some people would remember. Hey, Gianni. She said, I'll wait 5 minutes for anyone, 6 minutes for no one.
There you go.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Raylene?
I'm okay. I'm
doing good?
Trying to get back in the swing of things. I've been sick for a couple of weeks. I had bronchitis right after I had a sinus infection and ear infection. Then I came down with bronchitis. So it's been a really rough couple of weeks, and I'm just trying to get back in the groove. I haven't even been on Aired Out yet.
Because, I saw that
this morning we had several guests in the studio. So I hid out with the pups, and they all went live this morning. I did. JD called me from the phone, and I talked to him, from
I did
15
hear that.
feet away. But
I did hear that. I was wondering where you were.
that's how we did it. I was in my room. Yeah, probably where I should have been.
Well, you were missed.
Yeah. Well, and that's lots of people did miss me. I've gotten lots of messages. Where are you? People thought I quit. People wanted to know if I quit.
You just quit and let JD come into your house. I have a strange suspicion that would not happen.
Yeah, I do too. But really, there were people that thought I quit. They were upset. They were worried and wondering what was going on. So, which was kind of nice, that people recognized that, hey, she's not around. What's going on?
We love you.
Yeah. Well, I love you all too.
So, we don't have a lot to talk about tonight, but as usual, we could start talking about things and then delve, accidentally run down the rabbit trail into a hole and fall down and break our neck and all sorts of wonderful stuff. That happens.
Yeah, very true.
You want to hit the city council stuff first?
Sure.
Not much on the city council. I will say, so we are going to be authorizing the manager to execute a lease with Nelson's Ace Hardware, which is a
presenting sponsor of the Aired Out podcast.
I couldn't resist. Yeah, I remember talking to, I think I talked to Bob. It was right after the flood, and he was talking about how he had planned on getting a silo for flood resiliency for his pellets. So we're gonna. I mean, it's on the consent agenda. I can't imagine that we're gonna have any problems with that. So we'll approve that and allow him to put up his silo.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
why make him go through all of that again?
I know. Yeah, no. I will say, the rent is $10, which is fine.
Absolutely.
He doesn't. I'm not sure
for what Bob gives back to this city.
It doesn't. I mean, I think I was confused by that because I feel like he owns that property anyway. I don't know, like the area. I think it's just I was confused by it. But
probably setbacks.
I think
the parking lot, this, that, the other. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah. 0 would be fine with me, but
yeah.
And I think with the majority of people,
I'm just
yeah. You were
I'm
what?
I was confused. I was honestly, I thought that was, I was surprised that it was even coming to us.
Yeah.
to be quite frank.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely is amazing, and it'll be nice to have the
It's part of the
resiliency
process, though.
Yeah.
To come to you. Correct?
It is, and it's not the
So-
first time we've done this. I mean, we've done it before. We did it for, I can't remember the name of the bar. It wasn't a bar. Or was it a bar? Oh, it was called Quarry then. Never mind. The Quarry. We did it for the Quarry for the outside, but that was a little bit different. That was like utilizing
the sidewalk,
right, which was completely different, and it was like a super cheap thing as well.
Yeah.
So it's really good. The whole flood resiliency part of it is extremely important. So super glad that's on there.
Yes. So that'll be good. That's a good addition.
Yep. And then we're going to have our volunteer coordinator, Adam Jacobs. He's going to come in and give a presentation. Then after that, we're going to talk about the mediation and facilitation contract.
And his presentation
yep.
is just all about who volunteered, when they volunteered, what they still need for volunteers, who's still volunteering, what is the presentation.
I would recommend that folks come and take a look and watch it tomorrow night.
That's code for Michael has no fucking idea.
That's not code. I didn't when I went through it, it had a lot to do during the first couple weeks of the flood. Uh-huh. So I'm assuming that
the first couple of weeks that he was hired, because he wasn't hired right away, but
Correct.
Yeah.
So
it took a little bit.
But that was all that was in the packet. So I'm assuming that there's going to be more.
Okay.
Which
I was just
normal.
Curious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we have the mediation and facilitation contract.
We already did this enough last time.
I know. We're going to do it again.
This is the dumbest thing I ever heard of in my life.
Well, I think a facilitation wouldn't be bad. Facilitating. So I went.
Facilitating and mediating are two very different things.
Yes.
And yeah, maybe facilitating, but even that is a very, really, I'm sorry, but you guys, there is so much to work on, and you have spent so much time, I don't even know how to put this nicely, dicking around since July. Ooh. And how many, you guys, you're not even doing council meetings every week on a weekly basis, which I thought you would do when there was a disaster. And there's been big gaps and lags with that as it is. And now you're going to stall on this piece of it.
I don't know if if the council's going to stall on that. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. It's a grant position done by the Jedi, BC, and they, it's for mediation. I think it will probably by the end of the night turn into more of a facilitation, which I know that facilitation is certainly something, nothing wrong with that. I remember when I when I volunteered for the Justice Center, we went through a facilitated process for our strategic planning, which was pretty good. We threw up stuff on the boards and saying what we would want, for the Justice Center to be, and the 5-year plan.
Like what they've been doing for the last, 4 weeks with all these bury up meetings. The same thing. Those were facilitated.
Somewhat the same. I think it's a more focused.
And so this would take place.
I don't know, by the way. I don't honestly
If you
know.
did this, it would take place when, not to occupy city council meeting times?
I would assume that the council would make that decision up as they went.
Mm-hmm. I would assume that nothing else business-wise would take a backseat to that.
No,
you would do it on a different day. I
wouldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
I would hope not. So then we've got, on top of that, we've got the certify the 2023 TIF annual report. This is a perfunctory thing that happens, certify the TIF report, annual report happens every single year. Nothing exciting there. Sorry.
I
And then
forgive you. I forgive you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Rosemary would like to know, where's the report on the North End meetings? Do we know when that's going to be on the agenda?
I do not. I do not know when that's going to be on the agenda. I do know that I'm sure that's going to be forthcoming. The next item would be approved changes to the grants and management policy. I went through that. Doesn't look like there's very much exciting things going on with that. I know. It's really boring, folks. Really sorry. And then discuss changes to ordinance for the FOP contract negotiations.
Which is?
So there's some ordinance language that we're going to have to modify. So we're going to be doing that with the Fraternal Order of Police. Fraternal, I think it's Fraternal Order, Fraternity Order, or I don't know. It's for the police.
Okay.
So we're going to have to make some changes to the ordinance, which shouldn't be too difficult. At least I don't think it will.
Cool.
And that's pretty much it for city council, except for a personnel item and an executive session, which, not sure if there's anything else here.
I didn't see anything else. There's really not a lot on there for this week.
Not really. Should we?
And that's the part that I'm saying I'm just really surprised, and I've seen some of the comments in been reading a lot of the stuff on the different sites and pages for the last couple of weeks, and they thought they would see a lot more flood recovery stuff on the agenda, and there just isn't again. And so there's a lot of people wondering why that is.
Yeah. So Connie's asking what ordinance. So it's actually going to be, I'm pulling it up here. It's section 2. Let me go back to the top. Chapter 2, administration. And then you have to scroll down to like page. Gotta go way down. Public Works. And it goes through a couple of the departments. And eventually you get down to the police department. City physician. I'm going to read this. City physician. I don't know what this is all about. This was instituted in 1983. Maybe we should go through these ordinances.
Maybe we should someday.
And I'm going to read this, though, because it's interesting. We don't have a city physician. In addition to functions used to be doctor. Really? I do not know who he is.
Wow.
Additional to functions, powers, and duties prescribed in laws, the city physician shall render his professional services to any member of the fire, police, street, sewer, or water departments who may be injured during the performance of their duties when notified by the head of the department. Render medical aid at the police station in case of emergency whenever requested by a member of the police department. Assist the city attorney whenever the service of a qualified physician are required in connection with any matter involving city or its officers of the public. Well, isn't that nifty?
Well, do you still have one and you just don't know about it?
We don't have one of those. But anyway, you got to go down. You got to go down quite a ways to get to the police department. I know it's in here. I apologize, Connie. It's in here. I saw it in the packet, but it's definitely in section. It's part 2, chapter 2. You have to go down through though. But that's interesting. I don't know who Dr. Dunleavy is.
Well, maybe you better be looking at that ordinance too, because maybe somebody could hold you to that was on one of those departments, since it's an ordinance.
Why you got to say things like that? Why you got to say, like, you speak it into existence? It's not nice.
You just read it, dumbass. Who spoke it into existence? Good Lord.
So, should we talk about my frustration?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes. But you better be careful how you talk about this. That's all I'm telling you right now.
I know I get into
because we have we've gotten enough slaps from Facebook over the last few days without you.
Oh,
is that what you're talking about?
Oh no, we can talk about that. Do we want to? So this Saturday, I had the great opportunity to go to the Pew Pew show, because apparently you're not allowed to say the G word. However, you can say
fuck on Facebook,
but you can't say the G word.
No.
So I'm gonna refer to it as the Pew Pew, which, if anybody knows what pew 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 means,
Oh my God.
You'll
Bang
figure
bang
it out.
might have been a better one.
I think pew pew sounds better.
Oh my gosh.
Pew pew.
Michael.
There's actually a YouTube
I don't
page.
even know what to do with you.
I know.
I don't.
It was a
even
good
know
show
sometimes.
though. There was a lot of people.
Yes, I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
The lines out the doors, both doors. The lines were
kidding.
crazy.
It was insane.
It was very obvious that it was very well attended.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a due to the unrest and in fear some people feel about where the country is going and where our state's going and just where things are going in general, that people are feeling as though that really truly something is going to happen?
That might be the case. That's very possible that people are going there because they're concerned about, things, how they're going on in our society. Very valid. Very, very valid. But I think that it was also well attended because of the fact that it's going to be, I think, the last one without a waiting period. Mm-hmm. And Connie says, where can you not say that? Oh, Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook dinged Aired Out. So Aired Out has got issues.
Monetize.
With issues.
Yeah, we cannot monetize, which means that our analytics are enough so that we earn money from Facebook. And they have taken that right away from us for a certain amount of time because of that, and limited our ability to do some of the in-stream live ad things that we do. We're not allowed to do those things right now. Yeah. And so because we advertised it, and then when they took it down, that irritated JD, and so he spoke about it irritating him and why, and he kept saying that word, the G word, and holding the picture of the Washington World up in the camera with it on the front page, and they were like, no, and they shut it down again. So they're super strict about it, and that they absolutely, you cannot advertise the sale of those at all.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
And I don't know, some pages seem to get away with it just fine. I would assume it's because they're not a business page, that they're a personal page, and maybe it just wasn't reported or seen like it was on ours. But they definitely, I showed you, man, they really hit us hard.
I know that we had talked about it, and the Barre City Community fan page didn't get hit. Barre Beat didn't get hit. Oh, I don't know if I posted on there.
Well, I don't think you did. And you didn't think the partnership did. But I noticed their post was still there, but the poster had been deleted by Facebook. I saw that today. The poster was missing. So the verbiage that she had done when she shared the ad was still there, but the actual poster from the show, the orange one, was no longer. So
it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
We live in Vermont, and pew pews are part of everyday life up here. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and they are in a lot of lives for reasons of hunting and sport. People literally target shoot, skeet shoot, duck hunt, deer hunt, bear hunt, whatever. It's a way of life for a lot of people as well, and the assumption that it always has to be for evil purposes is just super disappointing.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and it's disgusting that we've gotten to that in life, I guess.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. And I wonder if we could advertise hunter safety training. I really do, because
Yeah, I don't know.
I would think that you should be able to.
Considering I do not know.
Yeah. I don't know either, but I wouldn't dare at this point, or without, because I would fear that we would get totally shut down.
You ready to take a chance and get into trouble?
Sure. You going to play your video?
I'm going to play my video.
All right.
So
you
for
play
people
your
that don't
video.
know, I created a video because I was like wildly frustrated by folks. She's coughing because she's got a cold.
Sorry.
Wildly frustrated over the whole, per pupil spending, per spending on average student, blah, 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 blah. People saying all these different things, using the numbers differently. And I felt that it was extremely important to educate folks on it, so that people understand. Granted, I have my own opinions on things, so a little bit of that comes out in it, but I felt that it's very important to get the information out there. And really the only thing that I gave really opinion on is that Vermont is incapable of doing anything easy.
Right. And and it doesn't change the fact that the numbers are correct. The information is very much correct. And this actually helped me understand what you've been trying to explain for weeks, because it's way too confusing. And the average person can basically just get told, yes, it's a good thing, or no, it's not a good thing. And if they trust you, they're going to go with that, because it's
Right.
That's far easier than trying to understand what's really going on.
And this has nothing to do with the budget. I'm a firm believer that, I'm a firm believer that folks know whether or not they can handle additional $200 bill every year. Can they do that? That's on them as to whether or not they can do that. They can look at, do they need to be, people that are voting need to be educated on things. So just always make sure that you do research on it to find out whether or not you feel that it's a good increase, a bad increase. Should it be more? Should it be less?
Right. Understand where their money's going.
Right. Understand and to also understand, where, is there a problem? Is there not a problem? That's something that you have to address, and that's something that you can do in the ballot box. That being said, it's really important to know the difference between these numbers. So I'm gonna share the screen. It's a 4-minute video, folks, so I do apologize.
But it's worth it. It's worth the 4 minutes. It really is.
I think so. And I spent a lot of time making it, so I hope folks like it. You can also see it on my Michael Booten for Barre City fan page.
And aired out
and
in
aired
my
out.
personal page as well.
All right. So we'll just start it off. Per pupil spending. In Vermont, people in the education business define per pupil spending differently than how most people would define it. Let's dig in and see if we can make sense of it. But first, we need to establish some facts so we are all on the same playing field. As of January 2024, the BUUSD had 2,247 students. Each one cost a different amount to educate. Every child is unique and has different educational needs, which include social, emotional, and physical needs. This is why there is a difference in cost for each child. All the money added up equals the BUUSD budget that you get to vote on in March. It's important to note that the budget amount on the ballot does not include almost $13 million in federal grants. Back to per pupil spending. You would think that the budget divided by the children in the district would equal our per pupil spending. Well, you would be wrong. We live in Vermont and things are complicated and not easy. Let me explain. To start with, we need to know what long-term weighted average daily membership means and what education spending is. Vermont legislature passed Act 127 in 2022. Act 127 is extremely confusing and assigns weights. Based on the formula, it may mean a child equals a half of a child, or maybe 2 children, or more or less. Basically tries to deal with the costs using a formula. That formula output is called Long-Term Weighted Average Daily Membership, LTWADM. Education spending. Education spending is a town's voted and approved budgeted expenditures minus local revenues, such as grants or income that it receives. What does that mean for the BUUSD? According to Act 127, we have 3,703 pupils, LTWADM, and we have an educational spending of about $43.6 million. So $43.6 million divided by 3,703 pupils, LTWADM, equals $11,795 per pupil. There is a difference between per pupil spending and average spending per student. Because the numbers are so different, you need to make sure you know which ones are being quoted. Let's use real numbers. We will use actual numbers such as the real student enrollment of 2,247 and the actual amount BUUSD will actually spend this year, including grants, which is around $72 million. Take note, this is old-fashioned mathematics for averages. 72 million divided by 2,247 equals $32,042 per pupil. Make sure you understand per pupil spending and education, because that will advance your children's academics, help with the tax base, and make you a more informed voter. Thank you.
Gotta love the more you know. I mean, you just gotta love it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching through that. I think it's really important for folks to understand it.
I do. I mean, I want to know where my money's going to go.
Yeah.
And it's important.
Education spending and education money in general is like, I don't, honestly, I'm like terrible when it comes to the budget for the BUUSD, budgets in general, like how the money gets, I feel very knowledgeable of this subject, and I don't know why I feel so, which makes me really concerned that maybe I don't know anything about it. But this, it's very simple. That long-term weighted average daily, whatever it is, the LTD, blah, blah, blah. That is a number that's solely like pulled out of the ethosphere not pulled out of the ethosphere. I shouldn't say that. It's a formula designed by the state to try to equitably
Disperse.
provide source for money. Right. So we get, we pay the state, pay into the education fund somewhere around between Barre City and Barre Town, probably about 24 to 30 million dollars in taxes. That's in the budget for the BUUSD for the education spending is 43.6. So we're actually, we get a lot of money from the state that comes from other communities, the gold communities. I think Stowe is one of those. You know, they put a lot of money into the education. I mean, it's education, finance is extremely confusing. That is what I've learned. But I would not say that our children are without because of that low number, because that low number doesn't represent how much money we're spending on students. It represents a state kind of number. And it's
Almost
very,
fictitious,
very frustrating.
like not, yeah.
Yeah, it's not fictitious, but it's a formula. But you can't use that formula to compare us to other communities. For example, we pay $11,795. Montpelier pays about $14,000. When I say pay, that's what their per pupil spending LTW blah blah is $14,000. So we are $3,000 less than them. However, when you do the average of spending on students, we pay $32,000, they pay $25,000.
Right.
And guess what we have? We have full-time busing pre-K through 8th, and they do not.
Right.
They only have busing outside a certain amount of miles.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's not apples to apples. It's just not. It's more like apples to, kiwi.
Yeah.
They're round.
Right.
But the skin is brown and the middle part is green versus white and red.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just different. And Montpelier doesn't have wrestling. I don't think they have football. Those are things that football. Do they have football?
Well, they used to.
How about the Facebook world? Do they have football? Does Montpelier have football?
Swans always had football, but
well, maybe I'm wrong. So John writes, it must cost $100,000 per year some pupils, then 2,500 for others. I don't think per pupil is anything other than a fancy word that's about as useful as a floor price. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a fancy word. You're right. Uh-huh. There are some kids that, and I don't know if 100,000 is, I know you're being hyperbolic on it, but it's not outside of the possibility, right? I mean,
right.
There may be a student that costs $100,000. It's very possible. And I think there's a floor because of just the fact that you have to, obviously there's a floor. But there's definitely not a ceiling for cost. And that formula helps to try to quantify that. Mm-hmm. Instead of having the 2,247 students, it says that we have 3,703 based on Medicare, I think it was. Originally, it was going to be free and reduced lunch, but then they switched to Medicare. So if they mess with that, then it changes again. And it's going to be, what's going to be terrifying is if the state removes the 5% cap.
The long and the short is, though, this is going to be a significant increase, and people have to decide whether or not they can afford that increase.
Correct.
If this budget were to move forward, it will. That's the impact. That is the impact. If it weren't to move forward, is it going to impact the education that the kids are currently receiving? Is that for bettering education and bettering behavior and bettering some of the things, that are wrong now.
So
money's not going to fix those things.
Right. I made the comment that I think that our problems with our school system is systemic, it's not going to be fixed through money. You have to have, the community has to buy in on it, right? The community as a whole, parents have to be, accountable. I mean, I think of when I got into trouble at school, I went home, I didn't get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not saying that we should automatically give teachers the benefit of the doubt. I also don't think that a parent should be calling a superintendent or, someone and like screaming at them because their kid, brought their vape pen, or whatever.
Right.
And they got into trouble. It's, it's not the teacher's fault that they confiscated the vape or cigarettes or whatever. Whatever. It is what it is. Okay. So Connie asked the 5% or 11%, isn't it? The budget. I'm still confused. Welcome to the club. It is confusing. So the 5% cap, and maybe I should do a video on that too.
Right.
What the 5% cap is. It's a 5% cap in the tax rate. So it doesn't affect the percentage of the budget increase, which the budget increase was 11.6%.
Right.
So, but it would have, so because we were capped at 5%, anything that was approved over the 9% increase in the budget would be under that cap, and we won't have to deal with that until the cap is lifted. So like next year, if the community passes the budget this year, that cap is still there, and that percentage increase, the 3 or 4%, or no, 3%, that's not being felt by taxpayers will be felt next year. So
right.
It's almost, I'm trying to think
kicking the can a little bit.
It's kind of like kicking the can.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why there was some concern about approving over that 9%, because if you approve over the 9% and that
then
cap
the cap
is
goes
removed,
away,
then you have to fill in the gaps there. So it makes me think of supplanting the budget. It's not, I'm going to get a lot of hate over making that comment, but it's kind of like that. So it's basically going to be paid for at this moment, probably from people that are, they're probably going to have to tap into the income sensitivity.
Yeah.
Not just us. I mean, across the state, because almost all the school districts did it. They were like, ooh, cap,
right.
Which is going to be a problem in the legislature. It'll be interesting.
There was actually a really good article about all of this in VT Digger that explained a little bit about across the board, across the entire state, the budget's going up and the cap and what would happen if the cap disappeared. They did a really good job, I thought.
I'll have to take a look. 'Cause
it was in last week, I believe.
Yeah, the removal of the cap will be very unpleasant for us.
And for a lot of people, a lot of cities and towns will struggle greatly if that happens.
Hopefully it doesn't. We'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting. I will say that if the budget fails and it keeps on failing, that's a huge danger. That it's, you always try to put your best budget forward, and when you play chicken with budgets, it can get very. It's why I was really concerned when the school board was playing games with the budget last year. They were, had people, coming out saying vote it down, and it's like you don't do that. You got to be careful, because you can really suffer the consequences. 87%, for the municipality, that's not a problem, because we just keep voting until we get a budget that works.
So where does it lie though in the the fact that if you truly feel it's too high and this is way too much of an ask for the community and they shoot it down, then what? I mean, we can't say we really need to approve this budget, because if you FAFO,
it really depends on who's elected.
it's right. And it really
and
depends on
if it's shot down, depending on who's elected for the school board, will they look at that as, well, we're not paying enough and the community wants more, and then they go back with an even larger budget with a higher percentage over that cap? Or do they come back underneath the cap and make, because technically, for the most part, the budget was presented, and it was presented as is, and then, it was voted on. There wasn't really any type of like back and forth that usually happens with budgets. It was just kind of like accepted. And that's
and really that's kind of the way it went. I mean, that whole process was a bit crazy, where it was just like, okay, whatever, and which is a little bit frightening in itself, really. And so voting at the polls really does matter. We need to be mindful of what we're doing there too, not just this budget. I
will say that, that does make a huge difference on who people vote for. I mean, I have my preference for people to get elected. I mean, I obviously made one very clear recently. As for, and Connie, you're right. Back in the old days, budgets were never passed on the first time in Barre. I think that's a relatively new thing that's happened. But I don't know if, well, there's one person that I hope gets elected. I don't know if, and for those that don't know, I'm talking about Alice. Oh man, I missed what I started thinking about Alice and got lost. But yeah, we used to fail the budgets all the time. And I think that made it for a, they were people, when you fail budgets, it makes people kind of like pull in the belt. I know that if you look at Barre City versus Montpelier, and Barre City, someone said that the city's tax rate is higher than the education. Yeah, it is, and more than most communities. Well, because we have a full-time fire department, because we have a full-time police department. Other communities pay more in education spending because they don't have those.
Right.
But the city and the school systems were always voted down, right? We got a lot of vote. And when I first came on city council, I mean, I think there was one year it was like voted down 3 times. And, we just had to keep on coming back with a lower budget. And the first time I've ever seen a budget go down and it came back with more money was last year. So I'm not sure what that's all about. And, I guess,
let's hope that they wouldn't try anything that certifiable again this year, because I can't imagine if it went down and they came back with even more than what it is right now. I mean, come on now. People are hurting badly. People are hurting badly. And this is tough to swallow. Is even if you say, I love my kids, my grandkids, my nieces and nephews to death, and I want them to have the best education ever. This is a big, tough pill to swallow right now for a lot of people when we're looking at what the state is looking at for an increase for taxes.
Oh, I know.
And
19%.
Yeah, I mean, the entire picture is very frightening to many people, including myself. I'm scared to death at what all of this is going to do. And every couple of $100 counts. And I think that the school board needs to be just as mindful of that as everyone else is.
Yep. Alice points out it would be really helpful if we could have a correlation between dollars spent and student achievement. What is the cost of raising the scores by 1%, 5%, 10%? That would be very interesting. And I'll just say this. I know $20,000 would get us Yonder patches, which is for cell phones, and it reduces cell phone usage in the schools. And we could have a significant betterment of behavior and academics because it's happening everywhere. And it's possible. It's possible. Just as a side note, it's possible because Hartford, Memorial Hartford School down in Hartford, Vermont, they did it. They do not have any cell phones whatsoever, and there's other communities that are doing it.
Oh yeah, all over.
I will
What are
just
these
say,
patches that cost money?
the Yonder packs or pockets or whatever, you put your cell phone in them and you can't get them out. It's a thing that they do, but if you wanna see an increase in academics and behavioral problems start to go away,
off their phones.
Get them off their phones. I mean, honestly,
I agree.
social media causes suicide rates. You know, it's all just
I know.
really bad.
So I know somebody who their kids go to Waits River Valley School, and you cannot get on Facebook or Twitter or any of that in the school. It's like blocked. You cannot access it
Really?
anywhere in the school. I don't know what they've done to do that, but so you can still use your phone for a calculator or, to text your mom quick or something if you needed to. But everything else, there's no access to it when you're in the school.
Andrew Perchlick, which I should probably reach out to him. I like him. He's a great guy. Oh, well, I don't know him that well. Let me rephrase that. The only time I've ever interacted with him was a couple times, and he was a great guy then. Completely wrong on EVs.
What do you mean he's completely wrong on EVs? What are you talking
I
about?
hate EVs.
I don't have an EV. I have a hybrid. I can plug it in or put gas in it. It has two doors. On the passenger side of the vehicle, electrical.
Talk to the hand.
Electric. Plug
Anyway,
it in.
point is,
On the other
blah, blah,
side,
blah, blah.
pop the door, pump the gas.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We can't hear you, Raylene. Oh, I am dead. Anyway,
There's nothing wrong with my car. Do you want me to tell you? So I got $11,000 in incentives with my car. So, which brought the payment back to where it was affordable.
Connie says, good job.
You're damn straight. Good job. And the
Well,
money
she says
that I will
hybrid,
save
good
on
Raylene.
gas is in my, it's just crazy.
All right.
I love it.
So anyway, Andrew Perchlik is actually sponsoring legislation to deal with the cell phone. So I might reach out to him and
I've
ask
seen
him
a
to
lot
come
of
on,
schools do it,
'cause
and
I
I
would
don't
love
have
to
a
have a conversation
problem with
him
it.
about it.
I mean, truthfully, if it had been in my day, my mother would have just said, if you touch that phone during the day, I will break it and you'll never have it again. And that would have been the end of the discussion. Unfortunately, times have changed. We now deal with a lot more threats in schools, things like that, where people feel as though they want their children to be able to get help quickly if they need it. Unfortunately, that is the day and age that we're in, and that's super sad because those things weren't the case when we were in school and kids either. So it's a real catch-22 situation there. That's why I liked what Waits River Valley does. Somehow, whatever it is that they do there, maybe you should check into that too. There's no social media. There's no internet access when you're, and maybe it's because it's out in the boonies and literally when there's no internet, if they don't allow you access to internet there, you have, so you can use your phone for, only purposes that they allow.
I'll just say this. I survived 12 years without a cell phone in school.
Yeah,
but
me too. But again, different times.
Different times. I get it.
I don't ever in my life remember having to hide under my desk or in a closet or anything because of threats. Or I do remember a couple bomb threats, and when I was in school, and
Duck
a bomb
and
threat would
cover.
get
I
called-
remember duck
well,
and cover.
no, but we didn't. They would just bomb threat, school's out, and we'd all leave, walk down the street together or whatever. You know, they would just dismiss school. We would all leave. Nobody, we'd evacuate and leave.
I'll just make the comment because I'm just gonna say, we talk about things are different, but it wasn't like a walk in the park back then either. I mean, with all
It was much more strict.
I'll make this comment that I think the constant fear of nuclear annihilation was pretty well ingrained in the school system.
Yeah.
I remember that, but of course I remember when the school system taught that Taiwan was better than China. So
Well, and I just think that it was,
which it is.
It was
for the record. And if I get demonetized in China, I'm sorry.
Oh well, it was a lot more strict than it is now. Though we had a lot more rules. There was a lot more respect. We knew better. We respected our parents.
we're
We
so
respected our teachers and principal. I mean,
Yeah.
when they spoke, you listened, and not now.
Nope. But all right. Well, I think we rattled on long enough about that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Anybody have any questions out there? If you can squeeze them in real quick, we can try to give it a go. But I think we're pretty much done for the night. Yeah. Well, hope you guys have a wonderful evening and stay warm. Oh, wait. It's going to be beautiful this week. It's going to be really nice. And anyway.
55 degrees on Saturday is what they're saying. 55
yeah,
and
but it's going
sunny.
to be cloudy.
No,
No?
sunny.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or partly sunny, I think it was.
Oh, that's possible.
I like to say partly cloudy, though.
I know. Now we're just shooting the breeze. So I heard you guys talking about the solar eclipse.
Yeah, it's happening on my my niece's 21st birthday. April 8th is her 21st birthday, and that's when the solar eclipse is.
So I went to the solar eclipse when it was down in St. Louis back in 2017, I think. 2018, 2017.
Pretty amazing.
It was wow. I mean, the birds actually stopped making noise.
Yeah.
I mean, it was phenomenal. I feel like the wind stopped too. And it was just so eerie, like became dark. So
And
I took the
very
day off.
quiet. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say it's going to be pretty mobbed in the St. Albans area, like the northern part of the state in Plattsburgh, that they're really going to be inundated with people that there has been rooms that have been rented for well over a year.
Oh, wow.
Because people predicted that it was coming, and then that it would be able to be seen there. Not that it was coming, but that it would be seen there, and certain weather people. And then once it was known and it was really out there, nothing. You can't find anything within like a 50-mile radius, I think the news said the other day. And people have even booked dinner reservations at restaurants. And so because of this, they have put out a warning in St. Albans that get your groceries ahead of time, get your gas ahead of time, because there's probably going to be long lines at the gas station. There's probably going to be nothing in the grocery stores, and it's probably going to mess with your cell phone coverage, your internet service, everything, because there's going to be so many people. Yeah.
So I guess that means we're not going to be able to
Craziness.
live stream.
Well, we're way down here. Hopefully we won't be affected by all the people that are way up there.
What's this we? You got like somebody in your pocket? I'm going to be up there.
You're going to St. Albans?
Oh, I not St. Albans, but I'm going up there. I'm going to be in the line of sight.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, highly recommend you do it. I can tell you that it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, cool.
All right. Well, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Raylene, for being
Coughing
on
my way through this. Sorry,
coughing your way
guys.
through.
I
Yep.
apologize.
But yep. So thank you all, and thank you for watching the Barry Beat podcast live from Raylene's basement, soon to be on the main street. So
Yeah, we're going back very soon. So
coming up soon.
yeah, we've got the go to start loading back in and
Pretty
getting
excited.
things ready. So yeah,
Pretty
not long
excited.
now.
All right. You guys have a great night.